Is this still on? Will you shut the fuck up?
It's so loud over there. What do you got
know.
going on? Jesus.
Alright, so we're already fucking up.
Alright, everyone. Welcome to the Hype and Cowl podcast, where we discuss what's been done, what's done right, and what's just hype in comic books and pop culture. I'm your host, Ryan Hoffman, and alongside me once again, Ryan Brungart, emissary of the Gorgonites. How are you doing today, Ryan?
Oh, I'm just keeping it real.
Probably the saddest bit of news that we've ever had to report on, and really that the world has ever had to report on, is the passing of Stan Lee. Yeah, man, it's sad. His wife passed not too long ago.
July 2017, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're with someone for that long, and then they just suddenly pass, like, it has a toll on you.
We weren't surprised to hear about the passing of Stan Lee, but at the same time, we kind of were.
Right.
Like, he was 95, but still going strong.
Like, he still seemed, like, healthy. He still seemed solid. Like,
Yeah, he was lively, he was spry, he was articulate. Of course, we all know Stan Lee as the original Marvel architect. He created figures such as Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, X-Men, the Incredible Hulk, a lot of the OG, triple OGs. And now it's just transcended pop culture into mainstream media and entertainment. People know Stan Lee. Let's talk about some Stan Lee facts, Ryan. Stan Lee facts that are just as fun as they are little known. So I know that Stan Lee took part in the big one being World War II, of course. During World War II, Stan Lee was part of the training film division. He and a couple other creators put together these training films for the military. And within his group consist the likes of Stan Lee himself, Dr. Seuss, and Charles Addams, creator of the Addams Family.
really?
Yeah, so there was some homies.
That's a legit little crew right there he was running
Yeah,
with.
for real. Just the thought that talent went to aiding the efforts in World War II. I mean, it's pretty wild. Like, that's some superhero shit. That's almost like a little superhero team.
Right.
You know, even though Stan Lee wasn't the creator of Captain America,
Right.
he was the one that brought Captain America back from the 40s. So originally, Captain America fought in the war, and then when the war was resolved, obviously he came back home. And he came back home with Bucky, with the original Human Torch, with Toro, some old-timey-ass heroes.
Right.
And they brought the fight to the streets of America. Obviously, that kind of got written out because the fact that they just weren't popular characters, and they didn't make a lot of sense within a newer context, within like the Marvel landscape. But Stan Lee retconned, if you will, the fact that Bucky and Captain America safely made it out alive. He really brought Captain America back into the mainstream. Even though he didn't create the character, he created the origin that's still used to this day. And they actually had gone back to write in that Captain America and the Bucky that were running around America fighting crime were different dudes.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you know Stan Lee had a lousy memory? He got an award, I think, in 2005 that he had the worst memory.
Oh, wow. In existence or just in the comic book?
In
the realm of
existence,
comic
apparently.
books? Well, I do know that Stan Lee, and this is funny, or it's not, Stan Lee has some pretty famous cameos in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. Even though Stan Lee didn't create those characters, or did he? There was a time that Stan Lee actually officially said something about how he didn't have any part in creating the Guardians of the Galaxy. Stan Lee actually created Groot way back in the day as like a one-off villain. Just this giant tree monster.
Right.
Just, demolishing the town.
Probably being a dick to everyone.
Yeah. He might have had a little more dialogue, but I'm pretty sure that even back then, he was all about the I am Groot. Yeah, so Stan Lee actually created a character and then forgot about it and then cameoed in that character's movie.
Like, he's like, oh, you're going to bring this back? All right, then I want to be in the movie.
But he had no idea. He had completely forgotten that he created that character.
That's pretty legit.
Yeah, that's a fun-ass fact.
Like, you have a terrible memory when you can't remember what you wrote. So, Stan Lee posed nude.
That I did not know, but it is very believable.
Yeah.
I mean, the man had to have been a freak. A man with that imagination, plus the fact that he's Jewish. If I can speak freely for a moment, speaking out of experience, God's chosen people can be quite considerable in the sack. That's what I'm saying. Shout out to my wife, Tara. Happy Hanukkah.
God damn it. He posed partially nude for a Marvel magazine centerfold in 1983. So, good old Stan Lee, just letting it hang.
So, rest in peace, Stan Lee. Very sad. I know, of course, we're reporting on it a little late, as we do. As much as we would love to dedicate an entire episode to Stan Lee, I just don't have the heart for it, man. I just don't have the heart for it. All right, so on a brighter note, and I think this is going to do the trick. I think this is going to flip the mood, Ryan.
Nice.
I think it's going to bring it right the fuck up. Detective Pikachu.
What are your thoughts on Detective Pikachu? I know you've seen the trailer.
What I like in the trailer. So let's talk about what I like, all right? You know, Ryan, this is the holidays.
Right.
This is about merriment and cheer. Being thankful.
Right.
So even though I'm not a huge Pokemon fan, I'm going to talk about what I like about the Detective Pikachu trailer.
Okay. Let's break it down.
Thing number one, the way they animated the Pokemon. They didn't change up the designs so much as to where they look like different creatures. They have the cartoonish proportions, but they have more texture to them,
Right.
obviously. They have fur, they have scales, they have texture, which is funny because I saw a meme where someone said something about why do they make Mr. Mime's hair look like two giant growths coming out of his head and not like real hair?
Right.
And then someone had looked up the details, like the actual facts on Mr. Mime, whether it was some sort of like Pokédex database, but it had said that Mr. Mime has two growths growing out of his head that resemble clown hair. And then someone was like, wow, Mr. Mime has always been terrifying.
That was one of the better parts of the trailer.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Before we actually get into the trailer, I'll go ahead and finish off whatever numbering system I'm using, maybe, or lettering, or however I started this list. So I think most importantly, this is definitely the selling point for me, is that these are Gen 1 Pokemon.
Right, which a lot of people know the Gen 1.
Yeah, go ahead, ask me how many Pokemon there are.
How many are there?
150.
Exactly.
151, counting Mew and or Mewtwo, whichever one that is.
I think it's Mew, because isn't Mewtwo 150?
Meow. I don't know, that never made sense to me, considering the fact that they clone Mewtwo from Mew, which means that in order to do that, they would have had to have record of Mew. So wouldn't Mew be 150? I think you're right. I'm just saying, doesn't make any sense. We know Pokemon as gotta catch 'em all, and how many? 150.
Yep.
That's how it was, and that's how it will remain in my heart. Now, I did see some appearances of some newer Pokemon in the trailer, which is cool. You know, they're mixing it up a little bit. It's not like the older Pokemon ceased to exist once the newer Pokemon were created and
Right.
you know, brought into the show or anything like that. Or maybe they did. I don't fucking know. I do not know. Because we're getting what we wanted as kids. We wanted to see that live action Pokemon. How heartbreaking would it be if they finally did that and it was this new string of Pokemon that were just unfamiliar and wacky? Because the new Pokemon designs obviously are fucking wacky.
Right.
And maybe that's why they're using the Gen 1. You're pushing it with Gen 2. Because
Right.
we already have creatures that are half eggplant, half whatever the fuck. Like, what the fuck is a Doug Trio? Like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Well, I think they're also trying to market to us. I mean, I don't think they're trying to just get kids in the theater for this movie. I think they're trying to get the kids that were growing up with Pokemon.
Let's talk about this fucking trailer. So in this trailer, the main protagonist seems to have lost his father. Maybe he's presumed to be dead, but I'm pretty sure that the premise of the movie is Pikachu being like, hey, if you want to find your dad, I'm a detective. Let's get it in. Now, the trailer is actually kind of misleading in the very beginning because you don't know if this is a world where Pokemon exist or if it's like some sort of augmented reality.
Right.
So Pokemon are real. And then we get the introduction of Detective Pikachu.
Right.
And we hear him talk. Unlike Meowth, because this version of Pikachu, for some reason, our main protagonist is the only one who can understand him.
Right. Well, you know, if you really look back to the first animated series of Pokemon, I feel like Ash could understand Pikachu. Like, we couldn't understand it, but I feel like Ash could, because they were always on the same wavelength, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's something to think about. People are in love with the idea of Ryan Reynolds as Detective Pikachu.
Right.
They want to hear that snarkiness. They want to hear that sarcastic banter that Ryan Reynolds is most famous for. And
Right.
I really feel like, as far as like the Pikachu that we know, Ash Ketchum's Pikachu,
Right.
he always seemed to have that kind of personality. Even though we couldn't understand what he was saying, we felt it. We picked up on it.
I feel like they got a good voice actor. I feel like Ryan Reynolds was probably the correct choice for this. And until we see the movie, we're not going to know, but I'm sold.
So, speaking of beloved childhood characters, General Mills, as in General Mills cereal, cold cereal, not that hot shit. We're not talking grits. We're not talking cocoa wheats. We're not talking oatmeal. We're talking cold ass dry cereal.
You're talking
with a
pouring
bowl-
milk on some shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if I were to say, hey Ryan, name me some cereal box mascots, who would you say?
Tony the Tiger.
All right, there's one, but you're wrong.
Count Chocula.
There's one, and you are correct.
Was it Boo Berry or whatever?
Boo Berry
There's the Frankenstein guy. I can't think
and
of his name.
Frankenberry. No, you
Yep.
got it. So we're talking Count Chocula. We're talking Boo Berry, and we're talking Frankenberry.
Okay.
General Mills is actually going to connect those characters, those cereal box characters, within their own cinematic universe.
Why?
I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to be upfront with you. This is the cinematic universe I've always wanted. Now, of course, it would be even more on point if they could like work with Kellogg's and if they could work with Post.
Right.
So we get like a full superhero team. Because let's break it down. We got Count Chocula, obviously our Batman. We might have a Captain America in the form of Captain Crunch.
Oh.
You got to imagine Captain Crunch is a swashbuckler. He's got skills. We got Tony the Tiger. He brute strength. And then we need we need a mystic presence. We need a Doctor Strange.
Right.
We need a Zatanna. Who do we look towards? Lucky the Leprechaun. You're trying to say that Lucky the Leprechaun wouldn't be our Sorcerer Supreme? He's got magical abilities.
I
He's
feel
a
he's
magical
more like-
entity. He's a fucking leprechaun.
Well, what's Boo Berry going to be doing?
Boo
then?
Berry, that's what I'm saying. Like Boo Berry, Frankenberry, they can be a part of Count Chocula's bat family.
Okay, so who's number 5?
I feel like if anything, maybe Toucan Sam, and he can be our aerial expert.
I can see that.
Maybe the premise would be like, okay, so it would definitely be the Cocoa Puffs mascot on the team, then defecting and starting his own team that consisted of the Cocoa Puffs bird, the Trix bunny, and the honeycomb monster.
Ooh.
They're all crazy as fuck. I mean, and then we have, Snap, Crackle, and Pop. The kind of like mafia dudes that like extort you for protection money.
Right.
Hence their names, Snap, Crackle, and Pop. That's what they do to your bones if you
Yep.
don't pay up. They're playing both sides of the field. They're just in it for the money. So yeah, that's a little bit of news. We just busted that one wide open. Like, get at us, General Mills. Get at us, Kellogg's and Post. Like, we're putting together your cinematic cereal universe as we speak. All right, so cereal, delicious.
Delicious.
Delicious. In the morning when you're high as fuck. So speaking of shared universes, as well as monsters, we also have some King Kong and Godzilla news dropping. What do you know about that?
The gigantic Kong meets the unstoppable Godzilla. The world watches to see which one becomes the king of all monsters.
Oh shit! Now does that include Boo Berry and Frankenberry?
It may. But no, didn't they just start shooting on this?
Yeah, but they're in production at the moment, and a lot of people have already been like, "Well, Godzilla is so much bigger than King Kong."
You think so? I feel like King Kong was pretty decently big.
No,
in
he
Skull Island.
he
Like,
was
I-
big, but he wasn't Godzilla big.
I feel like he could take Godzilla though.
They even emphasize in the movie the fact that King Kong is just a baby.
That is true.
They say that he's just a young guy. He's just a number one young guy. By the
Yeah.
time we see Godzilla and King Kong face to face, he's going to be bigger.
He's gonna have his leather jacket on. He's ready for a rumble. He's gonna have his hair slicked back. Yeah,
All Funky Kong. You remember Funky Kong?
I do.
He was my favorite Kong. I can hear his theme music now. So yeah, I don't know what all monsters are going to be involved within Godzilla versus King Kong, because it really seems like within this new Godzilla movie, they're trying to get all the others out of the way for King Kong.
Right, Godzilla King of Monsters.
Yeah.
It's coming out next year.
They're throwing all of the better known Godzilla antagonists into the single movie.
Right.
And I feel like that's just to get them out of the way, out of the picture, so we can go Godzilla versus King Kong.
They just want to make it seem like Godzilla is the king of monsters. Like he just slayed these other ones. Like what else is there for him to defeat?
We can base our opinion off the fact that we know that the new Godzilla movie is called Godzilla King of Monsters, after he defeats the likes of Rodan, after he defeats the likes of Mothra and, more importantly, King Ghidorah. And we can assume that King Ghidorah had that title all these years. He's king at the moment.
Correct.
So Godzilla takes him out. Next movie, Godzilla versus Kong. And, of course, we know Kong as King Kong. So I guess we can just assume that maybe Kong is going to win that fight. And then he gets the title of king. Is there a release date on that?
May 22nd, 2020. I mean, that's fairly not too far away.
And, everything from Power Rangers to Voltron to a lot of those Japanese properties.
Right.
We all love giant monsters fighting giant robots. If I were to hazard a guess, if you will,
okay,
I would say that King Kong, Godzilla, duke it out between the two of them. Before you know it, the government initiates their Mecha-Godzilla protocol. And then they have to gang up on this AI gone awry.
Okay.
If there's one thing that's scarier than monsters, it's artificial intelligence.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe it's following orders for about 15, 20 minutes before it starts learning and adapting and then revolting, as we know the robots will. Let's talk about another movie that's coming out within the universe in which we exist in. And we're talking about Deadpool 2.5, Once Upon a Deadpool.
Yeah.
This movie is essentially a PG-13 version of Deadpool 2.
Yep.
With some additional scenes. Yeah, you mentioned to me a Deadpool 3 that was coming out around Christmas, and I was like, no, man, you're full of shit. I don't know where you heard that, but that's some bogus-ass info. What I can remember from the trailer at this moment is Deadpool reading, I assume, the tale of Deadpool 2 to an adult Fred Savage.
Yep.
This is obviously a reference to The Princess Bride, which we all know and love.
Right.
I don't think I know a single individual that's like, Princess Bride, fuck that film. I would love to see Deadpool sword fighting with someone and then switching hands. Now the question is, was this whipped up by Fox or Disney?
I think it was probably a shared collaboration.
Yeah, by the time it would take to do something like this, the swearing aside, for the most part, Deadpool is wearing a mask and you can edit anything over top of what he's saying.
Right.
You can cut in anything at all in ADR. I feel like this might have been a decision made by Fox way back then. I mean, it's a moneymaker for sure.
Right.
You got Deadpool, which has easily become one of the most well-known, recognizable characters in the Marvel Universe. And they made 2 rated R films and made that money.
Right.
So if they could get everyone involved, if they can get little Timmy, if they can get Grandma into the movie theaters, especially around Christmas time, us being children of the 90s, we remember blockbusters.
Yep.
We remember Christmas time action films. They don't really do that anymore.
No, they don't.
Not so much because the thing with movie going anymore is that everything is a part of a franchise.
Yep.
So you already know you're going to see that next Marvel movie.
Yep.
You already know you're going to see that next Star Wars movie. And it's really hard for these other films with these singular individual stories and these isolated ideas to make money because people aren't really willing to take the risk. A trailer doesn't put butts in seats anymore. Saying, this summer, all hell is here. This summer, grandma's everywhere. Turn inside out. You don't get that this summer or in a world
far beyond this one,
where feet are also hands.
Well, it's like they can't sell movies like that anymore. Like they don't even attempt to.
It's not that people aren't interested in these movies. It's just that these movies are competing against these sequential films.
Correct.
That are just installments.
Or these reboots and whatnot.
Or reboots. So Once Upon a Deadpool, when does that hit theaters?
I believe it's the December 12th through the 24th. So technically it's the 12 days of Christmas.
Oh, very good. And I love Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a Christmas OG. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can buy tickets to see Aquaman a day earlier.
A week earlier.
A week earlier?
A week earlier.
Man, that's pretty dope. I have Prime.
Like that's a pretty cool incentive to having Amazon Prime.
Amazon is stepping up its game. I mean, and I watch a lot of Amazon. A lot of the shit that I watch streaming-wise is on Amazon. Speaking of Amazon, there's a comic book that's published by Dynamite that my wife had turned me on to years ago. My wife had turned me on and then turned me on to this specific title called The Boys. It's a ragtag group of individuals who are all subjected to some manner of tragedy based on some sort of superhero accident. It's based around the idea that a lot of these superheroes are also some sort of sexual deviant, drug addict, or all-around bad guy.
Okay.
The boys go around putting these heroes in their place,
Okay.
whether it's physical or by blackmail or whatever the case may be. Amazon is actually launching a The Boys series.
Really?
Someone had said that someone was making a The Boys series, but I had no idea it was Amazon until recently. So yeah, man, they're doing work.
They're stepping their game
Yeah,
up.
they're not just treading water. These motherfuckers are hanging 10, if you know what I'm
Nice.
saying. So you're a dick. I have recently become aware of the fact that it is indeed Amazon launching this title, and I saw the article and I saw the costumes. The costumes look great. They're not too busy. They look like superhero costumes, but they look like functional superhero costumes. And they also look just cheesy enough to where you know that the universe in which this story takes place, they're kind of like poking fun at the whole superhero archetype. But speaking of costumes, one costume that I do not like at all, and I'm sure you would agree with me, I can't even really say too much about the content and its context because I don't really watch this show. Now, we're talking about Gotham. Bane's costume is one of the worst costumes that I've ever seen in my entire life, live action or otherwise, superhero or otherwise. I've never seen a worse costume.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the design department was thinking when they came up with that one. It's just a messy, just disaster zone.
He looks absolutely terrible.
And their promotional photo that they released, it's bad. It is bad. I'm not quite sure what they were thinking.
It's wild bad. I mean, it looks bad. And when I say it looks bad, I'm not saying design wise, because we know it looks bad.
Right.
I'm just talking about and I'm not even talking about function. I'm just talking about the way that the materials look.
Right.
Like all the the rivets and the gears and the tubing and all that nonsense that he has on his chest, which I assume is supposed to be supplementary to his mask / respirator that was obviously borrowed from the Nolan version of the character. They look terrible. They look plastic. They look like they were painted by someone who would be painting any generic costume for any Halloween company.
It looks like he went to Halloween Spirit and bought the costume.
The comic version is actually like a Latin luchador themed mercenary. Bane originally is from some sort of secluded Central American island. I know it's pretty important to his character. I believe it might be St. Prisca, but it's easily more Latin themed. Whereas the Nolan version has got some sort of tactical terrorist, almost like a Turkish Middle Eastern feel to him. It's really hard to pin down what sort of ethnicity or from what region, but it's clear to see that they're modeling this version of Bane after the Nolan version. And it's evident that he's doing that based on the fact that more people are familiar with a version of Bane that has some sort of respirator for whatever reason.
Right, but a respirator.
Yeah, now
not a fucking
iron lung. Now, initially, within Dark Knight Rises, we all assumed that Respirator had some sort of gas version of Venom.
Right.
That he was inhaling. That was giving him some sort of super strength, super stamina, and that might still even be the case. I'm not 100% sure. And of course, we remember the original cinematic Bane from Batman and Robin.
Right.
One of the triumphs of the comic book movie world. And obviously that wasn't the true version of the character. I think he was just some sort of thug turned to some sort of monstrous meathead.
Right.
But the design was on point.
Right. It looked like the comics.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone was used to at that point.
So this Bane costume that's supposed to debut within Gotham sometime next year. It's if you haven't seen it yet, it's got I just don't know what they're trying to do. It's easy to say that this costume is ridiculous solely based on the fact that he's got humongous shoulder pads.
Right.
That just wing out. But we do have to consider in what time frame this is taking place in. Is this supposed to be late 80s, early 90s? It's hard to tell with Gotham, because Gotham always has that noir 20s, 30s feel about it.
Well, in the last season, I feel like Bruce started putting on the suit.
Yeah, so this has
got
got
to
to
be
be
early for it, but
this has got to be late 80s, right? If anything. So maybe the shoulder pads are a little more, in fashion. I mean, it looks like a Mortal Kombat skin. It's crazy that people are getting paid to be like, okay, this works.
Right. I would like to know how much they got paid to create that costume.
What I want to do, I want to find the designer of this costume, and then I want to bully them off of Twitter. Out of all the people that are being bullied off of Twitter, and this motherfucker's not being one of them, Doesn't make any damn sense to me, my friend.
Well, other than talking to you about this costume, I haven't heard many people bring this costume up. And that kind of concerns me that maybe that's why this is going to be the final season of Gotham. Like, people just aren't interested anymore in this show.
Yeah, or it's concerning that people just don't know what a shitty costume is.
I mean, that too, because if I didn't know comic books and I just looked at this costume, I'm like, God damn, that thing is ugly as fuck.
Yeah, and like I said, we have Fox executives that are like, yeah, that works.
Right, and you're like, the fuck were you thinking? What are you smoking over there? I want some.
There's got to be some executive at Fox that knows damn well that the Hype and Cowl podcast is going to tear this costume apart.
Oh, they do. And they don't care because they're after that money.
They damn well know. Well, we're after you, Fox. And we're after you, Gotham Bane costume designer. Bane's costume, very bad. What are we going to do other than bitch about it? So, I mean, I'm not going to watch it.
I mean, I'm not going to watch the show.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch it, so...
And if, like, the costumes were great, I would watch any show. Like, I love a good costume. It's good to not have so much superhero news. We talked a little bit about Deadpool, talked a little bit about Bane. Obviously, Stan Lee is the superhero. He's the real GOAT, Stan Lee.
Out of all the superheroes, he's definitely on the top of the list right now.
Yeah, rest in peace. So let me help you get off this subject of superheroes. Let's talk a little bit about video games. You play video games?
Yeah, I do like the good video games every once in a while.
Yeah, I dabble a bit. Not too much.
I mean, as you know from last episode, my game of choice this year so far has been Red Dead Redemption 2.
Just to get real basic white girl on you real quick, those who know me know that I dabble a bit in video games. I don't play video games all too often, which surprises a lot of people, especially people that aren't in my immediate circle, because they're like, really? Because you're pasty as fuck? Your nerdsmanship is on point? The fact of the matter is, I just don't really get into them as much. But if there's a reason to get into it, I will. I'm more into like substance than actual gameplay.
Okay.
So if it's a Spider-Man game, I'm copping it. Now, thankfully, the last Spider-Man game just happened to be slamming. Some games, not so slamming.
No.
Some of the newer games especially. Now, I am from West Virginia. You know this, and as does the majority of our listeners. So it was inevitable and almost mandatory for me to purchase Fallout 76.
Ooh.
I copped it after about a week or so of it being released. I was able to weed through the reviews.
Okay.
I got it anyway because, of course, I want to see all the landmarks of West Virginia because there are a few spots. There are some hometowns that are included in the maps. And now, in regards to the map, Fallout 76 is supposed to be 4 to 5 times larger than the last map.
Okay.
So there's a lot of West Virginia to see. Again, one of the problems being a lot of the map is nothing. And when you're just walking, then it's miserable. When you're playing Red Dead and you're galloping through the fields, that's still kind of dope. And you're still making space.
Well, there's still stuff going on around you too. So
yeah, Fallout 76, it's fun because they work in the folklore of West Virginia and all the West Virginia cryptids. A lot of people are familiar with the Mothman. Some people are familiar with the Flatwoods Monster, which is essentially believed to be some sort of alien. I didn't know anything about the Grafton Monster. Matter of fact, even after looking up the Grafton Monster, after the initial reveal of 76, there was nothing to be found practically. There was like one video. And at this point, it had like 3 million plays because everyone was trying to see what the fuck was up with the Grafton Monster. So it's cool that they do that, especially in West Virginia. Like, we're not used to like being able to associate our state with anything dope.
Right.
Like nothing. Like Colorado, easy. Shit's popping off in Colorado all the time.
Right.
West Virginia is just not a very popular state. A lot of people aren't even familiar with West Virginia. People aren't even aware that West Virginia is a state. If I tell someone I'm from West Virginia, they're like, oh yeah, I have cousins in Richmond. I'm like, I don't care. It's a different state. So I read a lot of problems. A lot of people just aren't really happy with it. I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just going to say that the consensus was Fallout 76 fell flat on its face.
It's bad, apparently.
Yeah,
like,
the game...
I honestly haven't played it. The last one I played was Fallout 4, and even then that was a little too much for me just for the fact that you just kind of roamed around, and that was...
Yeah,
that was it.
And, I have zero patience when it comes to video games. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to craft weapons. I'm not trying to craft ammo, craft clothing, craft armor. I'm not trying to make meals. I'm not trying to sustain myself in any way.
Right.
You become dehydrated in this game. It's such a pain in the ass to play this game. It is irritating. And I have no patience for it. Now, of course, I want to see what Mannington or Fairmont or their Fallout counterparts look like.
Are those cities actually in the map?
I know that there are a lot of smaller cities that are included because I have friends that are posting images to Twitter and such. And of course, like West Virginia University is included. A lot of West Virginia landmarks are included, and a lot of cities in between are also included and mapped out. I'm going to work it because right now, I'm hardly doing shit and I'm just getting killed. And I don't have the right ammunition. I don't have the right weapons. And a lot of that is because call me crazy, but I just want to pick up a fucking gun and use it.
Right.
I don't want to have to make it. I don't want to have to mod it. I don't want to have to make the ammunition.
Clean it.
I don't want to
take care of it.
Yeah, like every time you get into a vehicle in Fallout 6, you have to go to the DMV. You gotta get a driver's license. It's just sad to say this game is just.
What rating would you give it? And you know how we do ratings.
Yeah, so far I would give it 2 out of 7 irradiated pepperoni rolls.
Ooh, that's not good at all.
No,
that's bad.
Yeah, I would give it 2 out of 7 irradiated yan dogs.
Oh shit.
So Ryan, have you been playing anything new? How far have you gotten on Red Dead? You played on Nintendo Switch?
That's a lot of questions right there. You're trying to get some information from me?
Yeah.
Trying to get my social become me at some point?
Yeah, who are you?
Jesus, you're going to cut my skin
That's
off and wear it as a suit? The only thing I've been playing is Red Dead, and I'm probably 60 hours deep in that game, and I still don't feel like I'm anywhere near the end.
Yeah, I should have copped that, huh?
I think if you're going to spend the money on the game, I think that's probably should have been the one you would have. But a lot of people are Fallout fans, so it just comes with the territory. There is one game I'm very interested in, Darksiders 3. Have you ever played the first or the second one?
I have not.
The first one, it's basically about the 4 horsemen. The first one is the Horsemen of War, which it was a pretty hard and fucking complicated game when it first came out. It came out for the PlayStation 3. And the number 2 was the Death Horseman. Fantastic game. This one is about Fury. So really looking forward to this. Out of all the games this year, I'd say this is probably going to be the one I'm maybe looking forward to more than Red Dead Redemption, just because I've been invested in this series.
What kind of game is it?
It's kind of like a hack and slash. Basically, you just
cool.
button mashing the shit out of everything.
I'm about that.
Yeah.
Those games I'm about, for sure.
And it's kind of, there's some skill involved too, because you got to dodge, you got to roll, you got to jump around. It's not just let's hit this thing with a sword and kill it. It's this maybe throwing a rock at me. I should probably dodge that. just like the last God of War game. Basically the same concept.
That's God of War. When I think hack and slash, I think of God of War. And then that last game they made was just, they put that game together with such precision. Speaking of video games and such, as well as a gamer, you also have more of an up and up, more of an understanding of the new gear, the new tech that's coming out. Now, a lot of our listeners, they're into it. They fucks with it. We're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into our new segment called Pro Tech - Your Neck. So what do you got?
Like I said last time, we're in the age of tech where we don't get new stuff very often. We're still on this mindset of let's just improve what we have. And I kind of want to trash on Apple right now. As you can see in front of me, I'm quite invested in my Apple products. I have my iPad, my MacBook Pro, my iPhone. The only thing I don't have is a watch. I don't have an iWatch.
Yeah. You are unquestionably all up in that Apple tree.
Right.
What's the deal? Why so serious?
And they just recently came out with some new products. They came out with the new iPad Pro. They came out with the new MacBook Air, or the Mac Air, whatever you want to call it. And the problem I have with it, I want to say it's 3 years ago, you came out with a MacBook. Instead of being a MacBook Pro, a MacBook, you made this 12-inch MacBook. And at the time you had a Mac Air, and it was the MacBook was smaller than the MacBook Air, or the Mac Air. And so you just re-released the Mac Air, and instead of changing anything on it, making it smaller, making it cooler, you basically just upgraded the components in it and released it. And that's kind of what they've been doing the last couple of years with all their stuff. They just release this product that's just new components but no new design or anything. I'm just not a big fan of it anymore. The new iPad, they didn't even really do much to it. Yeah, they made it smaller, but now the camera sticks out the back of it. It's just stupid design. I'm just not a big fan of their design right now. But yeah, it's just we're not getting new stuff from them right now, and I'm kind of sad because if Steve Jobs was here, I feel like we'd be a little bit more advanced with Apple products. But
yeah, you're probably right. Steve Jobs was definitely the heart behind the Apple, because for the most part, a lot of people are well aware of the fact that Apple goes for it, man. They go for that wallet. You know, they take away the headphone jack and they sell you a dongle. And they take away the home button and they sell that back to you. And
Pretty much.
a lot of that stuff is ridiculous and unnecessary. A lot of that stuff is equally as unnecessary as it is ridiculous. I mean, come on, headphone jack, really? I have to buy a dongle once I lose the one you provide, and then I have to buy some sort of splitter. Then I have to buy some sort of adapter if I want to plug my headphones in and charge my phone at the same time.
To be fair, Apple was not the first company to get rid of the headphone jack, though.
Yeah, but
They got the most slack for it because they just released it and was like, well, good luck.
well, here's the thing. Apple is user-wide. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, yeah, maybe Motorola had a phone without a headphone jack.
It's not like the Android operating system did it.
Yeah, it's not like any and all phones that use the Android operating system from then on forward had no headphone jack. You know, a couple of companies might have done it. A couple of models might have done it. But like I said, Apple is user-wide because
Right.
you're either Android or you're Apple. So everyone on the Android side, yeah, if you want your headphone jack, you got plenty of options.
Yeah, just go over to,
Get
a
a
different
fucking-
Motorola, go over to a Samsung.
Yeah.
Just go to a different brand.
But obviously with Apple, that wasn't an option. And I feel like they even have backtracked on a few models.
They have. They just released the new Mac Mini too, and it's the same thing as they've had before, just again, new components. Like we're not in the day and age anymore where new things come out and everyone's excited about it. Like you're basically just buying a product because it's going to be a little quicker, a little faster than the old one.
Yeah, and a lot of it is the brand. A lot
Yeah.
of people like the brand. A lot of people like discussing the brand. A lot of people like choosing their side. A lot of people like being a part of their tribe.
Yep.
You know, the Apple tribe or the Android tribe. And it's a point of discussion pretty often. And especially within the realm of tech where you have, individuals much like yourself that know the specifics. Now, myself recently, I have gone to iPhone after having an Android, after having an iPhone. So I had the newest model of iPhone at the time. And then I went over to the newest model of Android. And I was very happy with how my Android operated, how things were launched,
Right.
and how easily accessible things were. Now, I went back to Apple for this specific reason. The interface that we use to record is called Aspire, and it's made by Isotope. As a matter of fact, it's the first piece of hardware that Isotope has ever manufactured. It's a little independent interface. It doesn't need to be plugged into a computer. It doesn't need to be powered by anything but its battery. It's got phantom power included, and it links directly to your iOS device. It controls your mixing, it controls your mastering, your panning, you can add effects, you can essentially do everything that you need it to do for music production or podcasting. It was created for music production as it has a 8-track recorder. It's got internalized amps and pedals and effects you can use.
Okay.
It's a great device. It sounds great. It's easy to use. Anyone who wants to get into music production and or podcast production, I would definitely recommend this device over and over. And it has served me well for as long as I've had it. I've dropped it quite a few times. And I've had
Nice.
quite a few friends that have dropped it a few times. But we're not selling that. But what we're saying here is that in order to operate it, the one bad thing is that it must be an iOS device. So I've since had my iPad repaired. Before that and in between, when I needed a new phone, of course, it was just Logic. Logic stated that it would be more effective and more practical to get an Apple phone so I can just control my interface wherever, whenever, just with the device that I have on me at all times.
Right.
So do we have any other tech news?
I'm just going to tell everyone, this Christmas, if I was going to purchase a TV, I would purchase a Sony.
A Sony television?
I would purchase a Sony television.
And then you would watch Sony's Venom on it?
I don't even think I'm going to watch that again. I don't think so. I think I'm done with that. Sony televisions. They are on point. And most people don't know this because they don't know me. They don't know you.
I don't even know you. You don't even know me.
We install televisions.
We
I
do.
know a thing or two about television. I know a thing or two about some routers, some networks, some cabling.
And when it comes to wiring, when it comes to networking and everything, some would say you're a wizard.
Yes, some would say.
Yeah, like you guys remember the wizard that used to pop up on your old PCs?
Yeah.
That's Ryan Brungart. So, speaking of wizards, I know that you have recently taken a trip to the cinema to thoroughly enjoy the new installment of the Harry Potter universe, known as Fantastic Beasts, and whatever title that comes afterwards that should have just been the title of the movie.
Well, I can tell you right now, I was not a fan of that movie.
But you are a Harry Potter fan.
I was a Harry
You're
Potter
aware
fan.
of the mythos and the
know what?
universe.
I am a Harry Potter fan. I've read all the books.
Oh, shit.
I've seen all the movies.
Wow.
But this movie, so the first movie, Fantastic Beasts, have you seen that one?
I have.
You thought it was a decent movie, right?
I thought it was okay, yeah.
It had a storyline. It was good. It was decent. It was nice.
Yeah. It was a movie. What part do the Fantastic Beasts play in the second movie?
But the movie's not about the beasts anymore. It's about like the prequel to Harry Potter. It's not about anything to do with these beasts anymore. The first one was fantastic because he was trying to get his beast back. He was putting it in his briefcase. You know, he had a whole little ecosystem in that briefcase. The second one, you see it once or twice, but other than that, I mean, there's no point in calling it Fantastic Beasts anymore.
Now, one thing that I'm aware of this movie is that in the last one, there was a character who revealed himself to be Grindelwald.
Yep.
And then that character revealed himself to be Johnny Depp in this movie.
Yep.
I keep thinking it was Benicio del Toro, but it's Colin Farrell, right?
Yeah, it's Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell, who hasn't been working much, it seems. Because there's a couple years where Colin Farrell was just on the fucking map.
Right. He had The Recruit. He had some other movies out there.
Yeah, he was in SWAT. He was in Phone Booth. He was in Daredevil, like all within the same year almost. So yeah, why the switch? Why the casting switch there?
Colin Farrell's in that first movie. 90% of the way at the very end, his potion wears off and he turns into Johnny Depp.
Does he?
Yeah. So yeah, I think what they were trying to do is they were trying to pull that special ending where, you know, oh no, the villain has been taking the potion to look like someone else the whole time. Mm-hmm. Just like they did in The Goblet of Fire.
I thought he actually switched, like they switched the casting because...
Oh no.
I might have thought he had like some sort of like perception spell where you like couldn't tell who he was.
No, he was just had a potion at the very end.
He turns into Johnny Depp at the end?
Turns into Johnny Depp, yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
So, and then of course, you know, in this one, he gets out of jail because he's in prison or magical jail, whatever. And
it's funny how in this movie, Grindelwald escapes from prison in transit, right? Like they're like, oh, we gotta take him to this prison for whatever reason, and he's a pretty bad guy, right?
I mean, you don't really know or see his backstory,
but yeah, he's a pretty bad
he's
guy.
Supposed to be a pretty bad guy, yeah.
Now, didn't they try to like kill Newt Scamander in the last movie? Didn't they try to like throw him in like a pit of acid or like a pit of evil energy or demon juice or the wizard cops, like the magic cops?
Yep, they're trying to get rid of all of them. It's Newt and the God, what's her name? I can't even think of her name, but the female main lead. I mean, it may be trying to kill him. I don't know.
Why didn't they just do that to Grindelwald? Why didn't they just throw him in a vat of acid?
Here's how he gets out. I'm just gonna spoil the beginning of this movie for you because I don't care about this movie, and I don't think anyone else that's listening to this should care about this movie. I know we have a couple seconds here.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
He gets tried for his crimes in the United States. They are transporting him to Europe so he can be tried for his crimes there. That's how he gets out. They're transporting him over to Europe.
Yeah, they should have just melted him. They should have just shipped the judge over from Europe.
Well,
or he could have just, wizarded himself over to the States and be like, you're a dick, melt him down.
Well, here's the thing, too. Why are you transporting him in a carriage with people all around the carriage when you have these things called port keys that you can just touch and then be transported to somewhere else? There was a whole lot of shit that just didn't make sense. Like, you're gonna transport a guy by carriage when you could just instantly transport them into jail?
Magic is wild, dude.
Like, I just there's stuff that just doesn't make sense. Like,
people ask me, like, Ryan, why aren't you into magic? Why aren't you down with magic?
Right.
And I'm always like, well, because when it comes to magic, the suspension of disbelief is all over the place.
Right.
Because you got something for this, something for that, but for some reason, that's not being used in this circumstance or the situation for whatever reason. And that's the kind of shit that sucks me out. Who knows? They are making a sequel to this one, right?
I think there's going to be the final part, the third one, yep.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going to see that one, though? Fantastic Beasts Part 3, Blu-ray rental.
Ooh.
Or Amazon rental.
Just do it on DVD.
Yeah.
Do they even make DVDs anymore?
They do. It's kind of, I don't know why, but they do.
Well, we are coming damn near to the end of this podcast.
Give us a sweet outro.
So yeah, wrapping everything up, trying to think if we've missed anything. We most certainly probably have, but that's not my fucking job. All right, my job isn't to make sure that we keep all of our content and our topics to a scheduled set amount of minutes or seconds or hours. All right, everyone, thank you very much for tuning in to this episode of the Hype and Cowl podcast. We really appreciate it, especially considering the fact that we are recording this issue right after Thanksgiving. And I just want to say that I am thankful for you, the listeners. I am thankful for all the subscribers. I'm thankful for each and every co-host that I've ran through thus far. And I'm especially thankful for my current co-host, Ryan Brungart, bringing the good stuff. So if you're listening to this issue via YouTube, feel free to leave a comment below telling us what you're thankful for. And if you are listening to this on iTunes, just go ahead and leave a review telling us what you're thankful for.
Right.
Rest in peace, Stan Lee. You know, he still has hitters out here. Don't let us catch you talking shit.
Right. We will beat your ass.
We will come for you. So once again, from us at the Hype and Cowl podcast, myself, Ryan, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Cue theme song.